Welcome back, everybody, to the AmandaFest podcast, where we dive deep into the essence of living authentically and creating the life you've always dreamed of. Each episode is a celebration of individuals who are living their truth and manifesting their dreams with unwavering passion and purpose. Today's theme is all about shifting our mindsets from discipline to devotion. As we've started with every episode, we'd just love to take a moment to get present. So wherever you're listening to this, if it's in your car, doing the dishes, or if you're winding down for the end of the day, if it's safe to do so, I invite you to close your eyes. Just drop into your body. And if you don't know what that means, just start focusing on your breath. Noticing the inhales and the exhales. And what we're doing here is just trying to get present. And I welcome and invite you to get present so that you can fully absorb all the juice of this beautiful conversation. So we'll take a nice deep breath in together. Inhale and exhale. And we'll do it one more time. And if you want to make some noise on the exhale, I very much encourage you to do so. It's really fun and it feels good. So one more time, nice deep breath in and out. Maybe shake out whatever you got stuck in your body. If you've ever done any type of somatic work, you know that we hold on to emotions in different parts of our bodies. So when we move, this is why I love to dance, we get to release it. And sometimes we don't even know what that emotion is, but the movement itself just allows you to feel this nice sense of relief and presence. So welcome. Welcome into your body. Hello. Hi. So I am here to introduce my beautiful friend, Natalie Grace. Natalie is a heartrepreneur, which is a heart-centered entrepreneur. She creates emotionally safe and healing spaces for others. Her own massive transformation through opening her heart and reconnecting to her body and her power is her guiding force for supporting other women to experience this magic as well. All of her offerings reconnect you back into the pleasure of your body, how to safely alchemize emotions into wisdom, and sort through the many limiting beliefs in your mind to follow your power and truth. So, without further ado, welcome, Natalie.
Hi, my love. Thank you so much for that grounding practice. Oof, it really took me into my body.
How's your heart? What's alive for you right now?
These are always the questions I ask my clients. How is your heart? My heart is excited. I'm being reminded right now that my life is a canvas, so I can create whatever I want, which adds some little like lightheartedness and play, if challenges arise or things feel really stuck and heavy. This is also, I think, a part of our topic, but bringing in some more heart to it, some more play, like, ooh, all the options. So, yeah, I'm just feeling really excited to be here with you, to be working on my business offerings and really creating my life. I feel like I'm at this fork in the road and I'm just like on the canvas.
Yay! Well, I'm so excited to have you. Natalie lives in Israel right now. We met at Ecstatic Dance in LA. When was this? In 2021 or
2021, yeah.
Okay, so talking about just, the synchronicities and the beauty of life, Natalie is from California, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point of this, but she's from California. She was living in Israel. She came back to California during the pandemic. We both started doing ecstatic dance because it was one of the only things that was possible and open during the pandemic. We were doing silent discos on the beach every Sunday in Venice, and it was allowed because it was outside, but it was at a time when we were all just craving connection so badly. And we created this really beautiful community of just, it was like all of the magical humans that I was meant to meet, that you were meant to meet, kind of all came together. And the more and more we got to know each other, we realized how perfectly guided our connections were. You know, I know that I started ecstatic dance after a really intense, tumultuous breakup, and I had a lot of emotions to move through, and that space held me so deeply. And then, you know, I started going alone, and I went week after week after week, and then I started seeing familiar faces, and then these beautiful friendships just blossomed out of it. So now she's back in Israel,
Mhm.
and in the time that I've known her, she's called in her dream partner. She's now created a
Um,
brand new life in in Israel and is thriving and doing all these amazing, beautiful things. And we were talking the other day about how do you do it, right? And the concept of
mhm.
discipline came up. And the minute we both said discipline, both of us kind of went, ugh, like shut down. The word discipline feels like punishment. The word discipline feels hard. And yes, in order to do the things that you want to do in this life, we have to do hard things for sure. But then we got to talking about devotion, which is similar to discipline, but it just feels a lot better. And yeah, and that's kind of what we want to dive into and talk about. And Natalie, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this concept of discipline versus devotion and how that has applied to your life and your business, and
Mhm.
yeah, how you use that little shift to make such a massive difference in your life.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember on our, well, it was our call, but a walk for me the
It was
other
a walk for
week.
me too.
Oh, right, right, yeah. So on our walk the other day from across the world, yeah, when you like stated this quote that you saw about discipline versus devotion, I just got so excited because this is a path that I've been exploring and most recently like really tweaking, like away from discipline towards devotion, away from like work and responsibilities to goals and creation
Hmm.
and projects, and discipline, like you said, it just feels so like, honestly, I think of like one of those slapsticks, it's like, and yeah, and devotion just feels so much more like open and expansive, and this has been a word change that I've been implementing into my life in like the last half a year or so. So when you said this, it turned me on. It sparked something in me. I was like, yes, yes, this is what life is. This is pleasurable. This feels good. And when I think about my journey with discipline and devotion, I'd say for those of you that are familiar with astrology, I have a lot of Piscean energy. A lot. So for me, I'm very much all the time, my natural tendency is water. It's the imaginary, like visioning and dreaming and imagining, the best possible life. But then my soul came here to learn to, okay, well, how do you ground it into action? How do you like take these amazing movies and like fantasy ideas that you have, but make it a reality? And this has been such a big challenge for me. But where discipline first entered into my life was when I had my spiritual awakening in 20. It all began with a guy.
Always does, every time.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because my mom used to see a psychic, and the psychic told my mom that at some point in my 20s or something, I was going to meet a man with a J sounding name, and he was going to be very, very significant to my life. So I was a super romantic, and I'm like, it's the father of my kids, it's my future husband. Anyways, I met my J. I knew it was my J. I felt it. And he was not that kind of significant. He actually woke up something deeper in me. He woke up this healing journey, that I was so disassociated. I was so out of my body. I was so in my head. I was following my ego, completely disconnected from my intuition, from any sort of pleasure, addicted to weed, and just wanting to be in my shell, just calling in like situationship after situationship. And he was the one that woke up my intuition. My intuition told me, no, no, Like something's off here, but I didn't listen to it. And it catapulted me into this whole healing journey.
Mm.
And for me, I started to develop what I thought at the time was discipline because I'm using not devotion or not discipline here, but I became so obsessed, really,
Yeah.
with my healing, my journey, with growing, with healing my pains, with creating.
Committed,
Yeah,
committed,
committed,
committed, very
amazing,
committed to it.
beautiful, beautiful, committed
Yeah.
to, oh, that's like, bam, that's perfect.
I know, I know.
Yeah, I became so committed, like so fucking committed to my healing journey. I shit you not. I like closed myself off from the outside world. I dove into self-development courses. I was taking course after course. I was healing. Had the privilege to have therapy up to maybe sometimes 3 times a week with 3 different beautiful healers. It was like I was so committed to this. And there was this one exercise that one of my healers gave me about rewiring your subconscious, where you took a limiting belief and you flipped it and you wrote that 90 times a day for 40 days in a row, and you did not miss a day. And if
You wrote down the actual limiting belief.
no, the opposite of the limiting belief. So, my very first sentence when I started awakening my spiritual intuition and spiritual abilities, I was afraid because of bad energy which exists. I was
Right.
afraid of like evil spirits or whatever coming in because I was getting lots of visitations. And so my healer, my medium at the time, wanted me to replace this limiting belief in my mind to there is only good energy around and for me, to allow me to feel
Okay.
comfortable to access my intuitive gifts. So
So the limiting belief was fear around if you open up your psychic abilities, if you open up towards your intuition,
mm,
bad energy is going to enter
bad
into your field.
energy.
That
Yeah.
was the
Like
limiting belief.
evil
And
spirits, demons,
okay.
whatever, bad vibes, whatever you wanna call it. Yeah.
Okay. And then so you took the opposite of that, which was
Which was there is only good energy around and for me. Yeah, this is
okay.
like seared in my brain now. This was 6 years
I love
ago that I
it.
was doing this sentence. So, anyways, I did it 90 times a day. I wrote it down for 40 days in a row. And I didn't dare skip a day because if I skipped a day, I had to start back at one. So, to me, this was discipline. Every
Right.
day I wrote my sentences. I finished this. I loved the discipline that it gave me. And so I think I went through like 10 sentences in 2 or 3 years or something. Like it was really a big part of my practice. And in any case, fast forward after 4 years of being so committed and disciplined in my healing journey, I reached a point in myself of self-worth and self-love and understanding my value as a high value woman, that I became the woman. And this was again like I think we'd known each other for about a year before I called in my current partner. And it was only when I really embodied and understood, stood in my worth, that, and I became the woman that I wanted to be, to call
Right.
in the relationship, is when my current partner presented himself to me. And so
That's
this
so cool.
was, yeah, and we're celebrating 2 years in 2 days, actually, which is insane.
What?
But this to me was my greatest prize and my greatest achievement. And I always thought it was discipline. Fast forward to Burning Man, the one where we almost went together, so almost a year ago.
Last year. Oh
Yeah,
my God,
yeah, like
crazy.
August, September. So it was like a year and like 3 months into my relationship or something. I just got hit with this powerful download or wisdom or message because I was thinking, I was like, how did I do it? Like I said, my challenge in this life is to take my visions and ground them into reality. So, since even before I met my partner, I started opening up. Like when we met, I started being like, okay, well, I'm committed to my growth and healing. How can I also help other women be committed to their growth and
Right.
healing?
Right.
But I was finding these challenges of like, okay, well, how do I ground these dreams into reality? How do I show up for my business seriously? And I'm like, Well, I did it when I called in my partner. I did something there. What was it?
Mm-hmm.
And then this is when devotion started coming online, because to me, discipline is from the head. And if that
Yep.
works for you, that's amazing. Whatever works for you. But I'm all heart. I'm a heartrepreneur. I'm somebody who's meant to follow my heart and tap people into their hearts. I'm all about getting out of the head. So discipline was so like it was a turn
Icky. It
off.
just feels icky. Yeah.
Icky. It's icky. But devotion is like, that's juicy. That's yummy. And you said the perfect word with committed. And I think committed can go with both discipline and devotion. But the difference is that my heart's biggest yearning was to have the relationship that I have now. And so I was devoted to my journey,
Yeah.
devoted.
Oh,
And
I have chills all over my body right now.
yeah. And so now, like, I learned this lesson with one area of my life, but only now is it becoming clear that difference in energy of
Mm.
discipline versus
Mm-hmm.
devotion. And so
Mm-hmm.
now what I'm doing when it comes to my business and the same dreams that I have, how can I tap into that devotion? The key for me is tapping into that heart, that desire, that
Mm.
yearning. And these might sound like really scary words to people. I know that the word devotion and yearning and longing would have really actually turned me off before I started my spiritual journey. But now it's something that really turns me on. And I'm like, right, this is where the magic is. Makes it fun. It makes it desirable.
So, wow. Okay. So much of what you said just lights me up. This is exactly why I wanted to have you on here. Every single time we talk, every single time I hear you speak, I have like a physical reaction of like, oh my God, yes, you're speaking into existence all of the things that I feel. But
Mm,
I want to touch on a couple things that you just said
yeah.
where I love the distinction and the differentiation between head and heart, right?
Yeah.
I think that that's such a big piece of stepping into spirituality and authenticity, and I want to be very careful with the language that I use, because one of my goals and intentions with this podcast is to bridge the gap, right?
Mhm.
I believe that there is so much juice and wisdom within spiritual teachings, but I believe that for those who aren't yet at a certain point on their path,
Yeah.
hearing certain words that they don't resonate with, that people don't resonate with, it is contracting, right? It shuts you down. I remember when I took a yoga class before I started my spiritual journey, the word grounding bothered me so much because I
Really?
was like,
Why?
because I didn't know what it meant. Because
Mm,
I was so dissociated from my body for
yeah.
so long that if you were to say like that, and that's why I do this simple little breath practice at the beginning, because I'm like, okay, it's an easy little thing. Even if you don't feel it fully, you can just slow down for a second, and that's even a step in the right direction, right? But grounding for me, when I was told, okay, like ground into, like feel the root, like you're a part of the earth, blah, blah. I was like, blah, 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 blah. This is boring. I don't know what you're saying. Doesn't make any sense. And it wasn't until I
Mhm.
arrived there on my own spiritual journey, and when I started working with medicines and I started doing workshops and retreats and all these different things, that
Yeah.
I like physically understood it. And that's
Yeah.
where this dissonance comes into play of
Mhm.
cognitive understanding versus visceral
Mhm.
embodiment.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that. And I can
Yeah.
also say that grounding, I don't think it bothered me, but where I resonate is that grounding was intimidating. I didn't want to do that,
Well,
but
it's scary. All of this
yeah.
work is super scary because the reason why we dissociate and the reason why we have a disconnect from our bodies, and by the way, if you are listening to this right now and you feel this, you're like, I totally resonate with that. All those
Mhm.
words really bother me. I feel disconnected. It's not your fault. It's
Yeah.
not your fault. There's so many elements in play, especially now in 2024, with social media. And I mean, I could go on and on and on and on. It's all about survival. Our bodies are designed to survive. And so when things are intense or things are too much, I mean,
Mhm.
we won't get into it, but we all know what's going on in the world right now, and it's a
Yeah.
lot. And we're not built to hold all of it. Our body is like can't handle it.
Yeah.
And so what we do in order to survive is so many of us begin to dissociate from our bodies,
Yeah.
and we're not present in our bodies, because to be present is to feel the depths of despair,
Mhm.
and it also allows you to feel the peaks of like euphoria.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at certain people that, you feel like have an incredible life and they're living their best life and they're so happy and they're so joyous, be very mindful if it's real, right? There are some people that present that way, and when you really get to know them, it's not true. But those people that you meet that you are like, wow, I've never seen and felt so much joy exude out of a human being in my life. Just
Mhm.
know that that person also feels and has gone to and continues to go to
Mhm.
the lowest depths of despair. You don't get to choose one or the other. If
Yeah.
you're logging in and tapping into your body and grounding in and fighting the dissociation, right? And
Mhm.
devoting and committing towards coming back into
Mhm.
your body and coming back online, you're signing up for the full range of human emotion. And
Yeah.
that's a lot.
Yeah. That was such powerful wisdom, babe. And really, it's like I just finished wrapping up a new offer about heart healing. And one of my main points in getting this across was what you were talking about, is that pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. And as someone who used to be super hedonistic, hedonistic as in no pain, I don't want to feel it, I'm only into pleasure, only pleasure, no pain. The amount of pleasure you're able to feel in your body is directly equivalent to the amount of pain that you allow yourself to feel. So, everything
Can you say that? Can you say that one more time
yeah,
for
yeah.
the people in the back?
The amount of pleasure that you're able to feel and experience in your life is directly correlated to the amount of pain that you're able to experience and allow yourself to in your life. It's like grief and love are two sides of the same coin. The harder you love, the more painful it will be. But you got to love, you know?
Yeah.
And what you said was so, so important. And also, I just want to touch on something, and then again, it ties back into this topic. Is if you are listening to this right now and you are someone who is very disassociated and not really in the body, and you're kind of like, what the fuck is devotion? Like, no, I'm all about discipline, or, some words are not resonating with you. Be easy with yourself, accept where you're at. Like Amanda said, there's so much going on right now, and with social media that's like pushing it down our throats. It's very unconsensual. There's no boundaries here. Everything's being broken.
Yeah.
We need to do whatever we can to stay safe and survive. And that includes, if we're physically have privilege and blessed right now that we're physically safe, emotionally, psychologically, protect yourself. We're all vulnerable here. And the more that we learn the tools to expand the capacity in our body to feel, that the more we will heal, the more we will change, the more pleasure we will feel, and the more pain we will feel. But pain can also feel really pleasurable. And again, it goes back to what I said about discipline and devotion. Like, if you had said to me during that time where I was so committed, oh, this is such a great example. During that spiritual awakening, I was in an apartment, and there was a sticker on the wall that pissed me the fuck off. It said something like, whatever you believe is possible. or something like that. And I saw it every morning when I woke up, and I would like roll my eyes, and like it would give me the ick. I was like, it's not fucking true. Like, what the fuck kind of corny shit is that? And then I was in this apartment for 2 years, and I had my spiritual awakening in this apartment. And I remember I just woke up one day and I looked at that message and I was like, huh, interesting. And then the interesting eventually became my motivator. It became anything is possible, you know? And this also just goes to show the power of rewiring the brain, like replacing beliefs with other ones, which can go both ways, positive to negative or negative to positive. So at the time where I was looking at, even when I was really committed and devoted to my practice, if you'd used the word devotion for me, I think it only started turning me on like a year ago. You know, I was like, ew, devotion, like worship, sacred, like religion, you know, like all of these connotations that were in my mind about this word came in, and I would have shut down, you know. So
Yeah.
I would encourage you, if you're listening to this, go with words that feel good for you. If it's discipline, amazing. If it's commitment, amazing. If it's not devotion and you're like, why does that turn you on? Amazing. Maybe one day you'll understand, you know? And so, but what I think the point of this conversation is that the more I got into my heart, the more I started to recognize the energy of devotion. And devotion can be different to anyone, but to me, what got me up every morning and made me excited and choosing therapy and journaling and meditating over partying and being with friends and writing my sentences over looking on Instagram, to me, in hindsight, that was devotion. That was me following my heart and my yearning and my desire. So that's my energy take on it right now.
Okay, I love this. I have two things I want to touch on.
Yeah.
One, I'm realizing us saying this turns me on might be a confusing sentence for people.
Yes.
So, for most people, being turned on is only sexual. What does it mean to be turned on, and how can we use, and I mean, it kind of is sexual, right? But not in the way that you might think. It doesn't need to be directly related to sex per se. But how can we use our sexual energy, as we all are sexual beings, and frame it in life and allow things in life to turn us on, and allow conversations to turn us on, and allow commitments, and you know, what does that mean? I'd love to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's a really good question, because things can be sexual and things don't have to be sexual, but there's a baseline of energy or similarity of themes that run through everything. You know, like if a man gets aroused, for instance, you can say, oh, he's excited, you know, but also you can say he's excited and in any everyday setting, and that's not sexual at all. So I
Right.
think the common denominator here is excitement, desire, which desire in the way you use it can absolutely be sexual, but it can
Right.
also be like, maybe you've had a really, really tough day at work, or you just really desire to like be in your bed or like watch Netflix right now. That's a desire. That's not sexual, you know? And then there's this, you said this phrase, I don't know if you said shutting down or what you said, like prompted in me, like something about shutting down is this can be the same thing as being turned off, and it doesn't
Right.
have to be sexual. Like you can be turned off of a smell, you can be turned off of food, it could be a sensual thing. And so
Yeah.
to me, of course, being turned on can be with the body and the sexual energy. And also being turned on can be like, there's this really beautiful word to describe it in Hebrew, lehadlik. It's kind of like,
Okay.
and you use this to light a candle or light a fire or something. But
I
you can
love it.
also describe it as something was hidlak in you, something was lit up in you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it comes to fire. fire doesn't have to be sexual, but if something is lit up in you, the bottom line, there's excitement,
Okay.
there's desire, there's an opening, there's an uprising of energy, and that can be sexual or it could not be. So, and when you were talking about our sexuality, I kept thinking about our life force energy. And
Yep.
for people who are familiar with the chakras, it goes to the sacral chakra. And if you're not familiar with the chakras, the idea is it's an Eastern, it's from India, I believe, but it's a belief system that there's energy centers in our bodies. So we have our root chakra, which is grounding, it's at the base of our spine. And we have our sacral chakra that comes, it's the belly, it's where the womb is. And the idea of the sacral is it's a lot of different things. It's sexuality, but it's also emotions, and it's also creativity. And it's where our life force energy is. So,
And desire,
and
and desire too.
desire, right?
So chakras also are aligned with different sound frequencies as well.
Yeah.
And so I believe it's E, I might be wrong, but essentially you can get bowls that are tuned to a certain frequency to activate different chakras. And
Yeah.
my bowl was for the sacral, and I was told when I was given, the gift of this bowl, that when I tune the bowl, and there's a whole other thing about, sound frequencies and our bodies and all the things.
It's
But
endless.
it's endless. These conversations could go on and on. But essentially, when you tune to that bowl, it's meant to activate that desire, excitement, passion to create. So for me, it was a great thing to do in the morning when I would do my morning practice. I would meditate, I'd pull cards, and I'd tune to my sacral so that I could commit to the devotion of my day and feel inspired to step into my day from this sacral space of desire. I shifted all my to-do lists. I changed it so simple, so just a simple little shift. Instead of to-do lists, they're all my get-to-do lists.
Yes, that was like my
Easy.
work to goals,
Yeah, it's
and it's
easy,
important.
but it's like now whenever I look at it, when you look at a to-do list, you're like, oh my God, my to-do list. But I'm like, oh, this is my get-to-do list. These are the things that
Yeah.
I get to do today. And I'm so grateful, right? Stepping into
Yes.
gratitude. Gratitude's such an easy way as well to tap back into devotion
Yes.
versus discipline. Just
Yes.
finding little tiny hacks, little tiny shifts to make it more desirable to
Yes.
do the things that maybe you have to do, but you get to
You
do
get to do.
instead.
Yes, babe. And it's like, I think this is again a point that we were bringing up earlier. What turns you on? What opens you up? What madlik in you? What excites you? What do you desire? Follow that. Just because devotion turns me and you on, if it doesn't turn you
Yeah.
on, drop it, leave it, go. Go with what turns you on, with these small little things like what you did, my love, with to do, which I did also. It's like to do, to do,
Easy. It's
to
such an
do.
easy one.
Yeah, you get to do it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I would say that discipline feels more masculine
Yeah.
versus devotion feeling more feminine.
Hmm.
Not male versus female, but we all carry both frequencies within us, both masculine and feminine. But the masculine energy is more structural. The feminine energy is more free flowing, heart centered, open. And I want to loop it all the way back to the point that you made at the beginning of this, which I love, which is my goal, is the balance between desire for creation
Yeah.
and the structure of what needs to happen in order to arrive at this point. And I truly do believe it takes a balance. There's devotion and discipline. And so we could be devoted to the desire, to the passion,
Hmm.
but that doesn't just mean all we have to do is be devoted to it and hope and pray and then it's going
Yeah.
to happen, right? Like with you, with your 40 days of writing down your sentences consistently, there was a mindset shift of what you called it You were calling it devotion instead of calling it discipline. But at the end of the day, the action, the physical action that you were taking of showing up every single day, of your consistency, I imagine you showed up on days when you didn't want to show up,
Yep.
pushing past your limiting beliefs, pushing past in the morning when your alarm clock goes off and you don't want to go to the gym, but you go anyway because you know that it's going to serve a higher goal for what you want to do. So I'd love to kind of tap into that of the masculine and feminine duality and what that integration and really truly how we can work with both of those energies to go from idealized dream to actualized result.
Right, right. It's such an important point, and it also shows how reframe is everything. Because now, when we come in with this reframe that you just posed here, which is genius and so true, I look back at that example and I'm like, well, it was both. Maybe it was my devotion that got me up every morning and got me to do the sentences, but discipline was present because it was the structured process of how I did it. What was I disciplined in? Sitting down every single day to write a sentence 90 times for 40 days in a row, multiple times over the course of 2 or 3 years. What got me to do that? Devotion. So now with this new reframe, it's both.
What happens when you get lost and you fall off? I think so many of us have these big grand dreams for what we want to accomplish. Let's use the gym on New Year's as an example, right? Gym membership skyrocket. Everybody says, this is going to be the year. This is the year that I get into shape. And everyone signs up and everyone commits and they're disciplined for a month.
Yeah.
And then they fall off. And so I wonder if shifting that mindset from I have to I get to, of this is discipline versus shifting your intentionality behind why you're doing it. I'm wondering how doing the same exact action, but by shifting the way in which you're thinking about it, truly changes not only how it feels while you're doing it, but your capacity and ability to stay with it. And as we are humans, we will fall off. Things will happen. And what does it take for us to not give up? Once you have the one cheat meal, you're like, oh, diet's over. It's like, all right, how do we hop back on? How do we continue going using these little mind hacks to push us forward?
I'd start out by saying that you can absolutely have discipline without devotion. 100%. You can do the thing. The question is, there's two questions here. What is your ultimate end goal, like you're talking about? And are you enjoying the journey there? And I think these are two really important questions, because let's talk about desire for a second. Let's talk about end goal and desire, and then we'll go to the journey
Loop
on the way
back.
there. If your end goal is looking good on Instagram or having a certain body by a certain time or a certain amount of money or whatever, if those are your desires, great. Everyone has different desires, and I think all desires are beautiful. And I think it's important to separate what is a desire from the head, from the ego, something that's self-serving, versus something that's deeper. The self-serving comes from society. It comes from external. It comes from being perceived a certain way or having a certain thing. And when you follow that, first of all, you're probably not going to like the journey to get there. So that's one thing. If you do, great. But I don't think that that's common. And the second thing is, when you do get the thing, when you do have the body, when you do get the money, when you do get all the likes on Instagram, it's so external because it was a desire implanted by society, which is fine. We all have desires implanted by society, but there's an emptiness inside because it's not deep. It's not coming from your soul, or your, let me use a more casual word, it's not coming from an authentic place, something that's long lasting, something that's like a tree rooted in the ground versus weeds that you can pull out. You know,
Right.
if there's a fleetingness to that happiness, if it's a desire that comes from your truth and not because society has told you that you should desire this thing, but just because you genuinely desire this thing and you feel that excitement, desire, turn on, whatever we're opening, whatever word you want to use in your body, that's a sign for me that it's authentic. And that allows us to fill up from the inside. And when we do get the thing, well, here we go back to the journey. So if we're talking about really authentic desires, it's important that you enjoy the journey on the way there.
Yeah.
And you're more likely to not fall off the horse. We all do at certain points, but you may fall off the horse less often, or for shorter periods of time, or in different ways, you know. But it's about, like what you said, enjoying the journey. So instead of to do, what do you get to do? I can say from experience, I can look at, I'm going to talk about my relationship for a second. What did I have to do in order to get the relationship? Girl, I had to go into my deepest wounds. I had to go into my deepest pains. I had to go into my insecurities and like why I was chasing certain things. That fucking sucked. It was horrible. I was crying all the time. But I'd never been happier. And look where it brought me, you know? So the journey to get there may never be joyful and pleasurable and whatever. So where is the desire coming from? Is it coming from here? Is it coming from here? If it's coming from here, great. Just understand that it may not bring you the thing that you want.
I believe that if it's coming from here, when shit gets hard, you're more likely to tap out.
Yep.
If it's coming from here, if it's coming from your head, by the way, for people who are listening, we're pointing to our heads.
Yeah. It's coming from here.
I was like, I forgot this is a podcast. If it's coming from your head, then you're losing the juice behind it.
Yes.
So when the workout is really hard, when the conversations with your partner get difficult, when it's difficult and hard, it's very easy to say, well, this isn't what I wanted. But when it's coming from your heart, when things get hard, you have more ammo behind it to push forward and to continue and to know and because that's when you're tapping into your intuition, you're tapping into this knowing of, okay, am I desiring to tap out because it's difficult or because it's not aligned anymore? And I think that's a question that we should ask ourselves. I think that we're in this period right now where instant gratification is number one, right? We've got the dating apps, we've got this, everything on demand, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, if I can't get it right away, I don't want it. But we have to remember that when we see these overnight successes, there is no such thing as an overnight success. Every single person that you see and admire and respect and desire to be, that made something out of nothing seemingly overnight, there is so much work behind the scenes that you did not see, that you did not witness, that it took for this overnight thing to happen. So for us to compare ourselves to those people when we don't know the full story, and to be hard on ourselves because we're not achieving, or because the thing that we want isn't coming to us as easily as it looks like it's coming to others, we have to check ourselves for a second and recognize that we're only seeing a little piece of someone else's journey. And the people that are in integrity and in authenticity and arriving at success from those places, because there are many people that are successful that didn't come at it from a heart-centered place, and that's a
Yeah.
whole other story.
Yes.
But
Yes.
if that's the goal and that's the desire, is to achieve success and remain true to yourself and in your integrity and in authenticity, you gotta fucking work to do that.
Yeah, and I'd love to add one more piece here and then read what I pulled. But when you were speaking, it reminded me of how I know if something is an authentic desire or an ego desire, an
Okay.
outsourced desire or an internal one. And this
What do
might
you
be
do?
helpful for people because when it came to my initial healing and pulling in a relationship, that was a desire that was so deep that committing to the path was easy. Being devoted and disciplined, it was all easy. When it comes to my business, my biggest challenge over the last few years was holding this desire. And you could say I've fallen off the horse many times over these few years, but I'm still here. And so what shows me that really being in this path and offering services that are healing and heart-based to others, how this is a genuine desire for me is there's no other option. And when I say there's no other option, I mean, of course there are options. I can go back to a 9 to 5. I can go back to corporate. I can work for someone. I can do this. But I'm not gonna fucking do that. There's no way. Like, that's just not an option. Like, it's just not. You know? It's like
I'm laughing so hard because one of my short responses for my college essay, I mean, like 10 years ago,
yeah,
however many years ago we were in college,
right.
literally, there was a question. I pursued theater, and they
Yo.
asked, why theater? Why do you want to go into this field? But I said something really similar to that. It's a very hard industry. And I said in my essay, I was like, this isn't an option for me. This is the only thing that I want to do. I went to a workshop at college where someone came to speak, and he said the exact same thing as well, where he was like, if you wake up in the morning and you can envision yourself doing anything else, do the other thing, because your life will be way easier. Your path to success will be way easier. Do that. But if you wake up every single day and this is the only thing that you have your heart set on, and this is the only thing that you can see yourself doing, and this is the only thing that will bring you joy, then that's where the no other option comes into play.
Yes.
There is
Yes.
no option there. There is no option. You
There's
must
no
do this.
other option.
And you know that it's a must because you're like, realistically, I wish I didn't want to do this, but I do.
Right. There's no other option that will bring you joy or happiness or fulfillment. And so 1000%, I feel like you were speaking to me in that moment, but yeah, but I just want to say, like, and really point out for everyone who's listening, even if you keep falling off the horse, if this no other option resonates with you, then it's about tapping into why. It's about tapping into that desire. It's about finding some sense of devotion, commitment, discipline, whatever word resonates with you to get you there. And it's about enjoying the journey and making it pleasurable.
And letting it turn you on, baby.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Can I
Please,
Okay,
please.
so before, like 15 minutes before I hopped on this podcast call with you, I opened an Oracle card deck. For people who are not familiar with Oracle card decks, it's like cards that have different themes that have very much universal wisdom, high consciousness wisdom. Most of them are very beautiful. But energetically, the way it works is you ask a question, and the card that you are directed to pull, whether it feels like you want to pull this one or you see one and you choose this one, there's no wrong way to do it. The card that you pull is going to reflect an answer or some wisdom for you. You know, so you can say that it's divinely guided and like I was meant to choose this card, or you could have a more skeptical approach and be like, well, all the cards will resonate, you know? Yeah. And it lights up your wisdom inside. Anyways, so I have this oracle deck. It's about archetypes, which are like different personalities that exist in our psyche that we all have on some spectrum. This was coined by Carl Jung, this whole theory. So I sat down and I had just broke into this deck. It was my first time being called to use it. So interesting. And I sat there and I was like, okay, what archetype to me most represents the energy of devotion? Like, what wisdom can I tap into here before I get onto this call? And I pulled this card called the Starborn. So the Starborn is the divine child, the star child, the destined, an elusive yet radiant aspect of the self. The Starborn archetype points to the cosmic spark of light that arrives with each being at birth. The moment the newborn crowns, whether vaginally or surgically, the royal stars above are said to constellate in a unique shape that maps our path in the world. The idea of destiny is controversial, yet the Starborn naturally feels a sense of destination. This part's in red. Destination and purpose, aiming itself toward a future that is beyond the mundane. What did you desire when you were young? Yeah, destiny, desire, purpose, unique path. When this card appears, don't be surprised if you receive a surge of desire for a long lost dream, one you haven't visited since childhood. Let this desire shake you up. So when I read this, of course, I was like, well, obviously, this is how I feel about devotion. But I'd love to hear your thoughts.
I mean, it all goes back to childhood. Like this is the work. The work isn't, about becoming this new version of yourself. All of the work that we're doing is about peeling back the layers to
Yeah,
come back to our authenticity. And we were the most authentic versions of ourselves when we were young, when we were
right,
kids,
right.
before the world told us how we should behave, who we should be, what we should desire. We knew instinctively and innately
Of
so
course, it
much.
was so on point. And we even ended up talking all about desire and purpose and authenticity.
It's
So,
so perfect. Well, we're coming up on time, so I want to make sure. First of all, I want to thank you so much.
no,
I
thank
mean, I never know where these conversations are going to go, and I don't care because I very intentionally choose guests like yourself who every single time I have a conversation with, I feel lit up and excited. What's the word in Hebrew? Feel lit up?
Madlik. For a woman, it would be madlika.
Madlika. I
Yeah.
feel madlika every time I have a conversation with you. You know, I feel turned on. I feel excited. I feel inspired. I feel like, just so good and juicy. So I'm so grateful for
Mhm.
you coming on here, sharing your wisdom. I really hope to have you back. I would love for you to take this opportunity to let our listeners know how they can connect with you,
Mhm.
where they can find you, and if you want to share a couple options if people wanted to work with you, in what capacity they could do that. I would love to hear that before we close
Yeah.
out.
Thank you so much. It was such an honor and pleasure to be here. And I just always love connecting with you, but especially in this format. I do think our conversation should be like broadcasted somewhere because of the jewels of wisdom that come in. So, thank you so much, my love. And yes, so if you resonate with my energy and my path and what I'm doing, I have an option for everyone. This is the entrepreneur. I follow so many passions. So the one main thing I do is I do something called spiritual counseling, which is what my degree is in. It's a holistic therapy. And we really just have a chance to look at what's alive in you, tap you back into the body, allow you to alchemize your emotional pain into pleasure and into wisdom, catch these limiting beliefs and rewire them and really just bring you back to your authentic truth, your authentic desire. So that's one way. I also do private meditations as well. If you're wanting to tap more into your intuition or connect to your body, or, there's so many different kinds of meditation. So, really, where your individual goals and desires are, we can cultivate that ability within you. I have coming up in 2 weeks, really exciting, a sisterhood circle, which is a 3 month, really closed space for women where we'll have calls 3 times a month to really just be seen, be heard, be accepted. It's this collective healing of this sisterhood wound, and then really also being able to receive that unconditional love and acceptance and support from others, as well as give your own wisdom. So really great for other space holders or women who are wanting to know what it means to hold a safe space for other people. And this is beginning July 7th, and I'm really excited about this. This is my first official offering about this. I held free circles after the war started, and the spaces were so powerful, the women who came in. So this is an opportunity to deepen that, to tighten it, the same women every week for 3 months. Really sisterhood. I also do Reiki energy healing. If you're located in Tel Aviv or in Israel, I do in-person sessions. I'm also, when I'm in LA, I do that, and also distance works as well. I do movement therapy, blindfolded dance. Really, you see me doing it at the beach all the time. But blindfolded dance to get us out of our heads and into the bodies. Occasionally, I lead something I call growth shops, where I educate about the nervous system and how to regulate our nervous system and bring normalcy to it to ease that shame, as well as dive into the subconscious. What is the subconscious? How does our subconscious form? What are our beliefs? Why we don't need to feel shame over them, and how to rewire them, like disciplined devotional sentences for 40 days in a row. And upcoming, I'm going to be certified in trauma informed astrology. So that's another thing to add to my buffet. And
I love it.
just in general, I give lots of free tools and free wisdom on my Instagram, which will be included in the link.
Check
So
it below.
yeah,
Oh,
thank you
and
so
and
much.
and lots of juicy collaborations in the future together.
Yes,
Well, let's tap into some ways we can have some
yes.
offerings.
Amazing.
But yeah, Natalie, I'm so grateful to have had you. If you haven't already done so, guys, please like and rate this podcast. I'm really hoping to get more eyes and ears on this space, and we're at the very beginning stages of it. So I invite you to support and grow with me if you resonate with any of the things that we've talked about. You can also follow me personally. I'm at Amanda Lorena, Laurena, and the podcast itself is at AmandaFest Podcast. All of the links will be down below in the description. And I hope everybody has a really beautiful, inspired, and juicy day. Sending you all so much love. Mwah. Thank you, thank you, thank you.